Welcome to the 700 Club. Israel is on alert. Its military is targeting secret tunnels under its borders, especially the ones coming in from Lebanon. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Hezbollah was planning on using these tunnels to launch raids on the Jewish state.
Meanwhile, the IDF continues to expose and destroy these terror tunnels. CBN's Chris Mitchell has this look inside the operation to terminate these underground threats.
These are Hezbollah operatives making their way through an attack tunnel that begins in Lebanon and continues inside Israel. The IDF distributed the footage showing the men approaching a hidden IDF camera, an explosion, and the men running away.
These cross-border terror tunnels were built by Hezbollah with direct support and funding from Iran. They were built with one purpose in mind: to attack and murder innocent Israeli men, women, and children. This is a grave violation of Israel's sovereignty.
According to the IDF, this tunnel begins in the Lebanese village of Kfar Kila. It's about 650 feet long, including about 120 feet inside Israel, and is about 80 feet deep. This IDF graphic shows how the tunnel crosses the border. Israel announced it had begun what it's calling Operation Northern Shield on Tuesday and went into action to expose the tunnels along its northern border. This footage shows how close the Lebanese population lives to the border and just how well they can see what's going on inside Israel. On the Israeli side, agricultural fields and orchards flank the border. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu said he had a message for the people of Lebanon.
Hezbollah is putting your lives in danger. They are sacrificing your well-being to serve the aggressive purposes of Iran. Israel holds the Lebanese government accountable for all terror activity emanating from Lebanon against Israel.
Since the end of the Second Lebanon War in 2006, UN Resolution 1701 required UN forces to essentially maintain a Hezbollah-free zone next to the border. But Israel's ambassador to the UN, Danny Danon, said the UN's forces in Lebanon aren't doing the job.
UNIFIL's mission is to prevent the buildup of arms and military infrastructure in southern Lebanon. Clearly, it is not doing enough.
Danon called on the UN to condemn Hezbollah's actions.
Israel has no interest in escalation, but we will do whatever it takes to defend our sovereignty and our citizens. The Security Council must condemn this terrorist threat.
So far, Hezbollah hasn't responded to the Israeli operation. In the meantime, Israel is continuing to expose and destroy the tunnels in an operation expected to last a few weeks. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Well, Israel faces enemies not just in the battlefield, but also in the United Nations. Ephraim Graham has more from the CBN Newsroom.
Gordon, the UN rejected a U.S.-sponsored resolution to condemn the terror group Hamas for its repeated attacks against Israel. The measure called on Hamas to end its terror campaigns against the Jewish state, including last month's rocket assault on Israel's southern border. 87 countries voted in favor of the resolution Thursday, but that was not enough to win the two-thirds majority needed to pass. U.S. Ambassador Nikki Haley blasted the United Nations for its anti-Israel bias.
The United Nations has never once passed a resolution condemning Hamas. Never. Over 700 resolutions condemning Israel, and not one single resolution condemning Hamas.
Hamas thanked the United Nations for rejecting the resolution. President Trump is expected to nominate State Department spokeswoman Heather Nauert to replace Nikki Haley as ambassador to the United Nations. Nauert joined the State Department in 2017 in April after a career as a broadcast journalist at ABC News and Fox News. The president is also considering a permanent replacement for former Attorney General Jeff Sessions. William Barr served as Attorney General under President George H.W. Bush, and he's emerged as a top contender for that job in President Trump's cabinet. The arrest of a Chinese business executive has questions swirling around U.S.-China trade negotiations, and it sent the stock market on a wild ride Thursday. The Dow nosedived more than 700 points before rebounding to close just 70 points down. This comes following the arrest of the chief financial officer of the Chinese telecom giant Huawei. Canadian officials made the arrest at the request of the United States. There are reports of an investigation into whether the company violated sanctions against Iran and concerns over its suspected theft of U.S. technology. The executive faces extradition to the United States, but China is demanding her release. Just last week, China and the U.S. agreed to a 90-day cool-down period in their ongoing trade dispute. Tariffs and trade issues with China are at the core of investors' concerns. President Trump sees the penalties as a key negotiating tool. But so far, all China has done is retaliate. Top economists tell CBN News they have proposed a resolution. And as Ben Kennedy reports, they hope the president will consider it.
President Trump said the U.S. lost billions of dollars due to unfair trade last year. But analysts, including one of his former economic advisors, say this idea would solve the trade turmoil without further tariffs.
I don't know if he's going to do it. I know that article landed on his desk, and I know he's considering it.
Economist Stephen Moore's proposal aims to create a level playing field.
You offer these countries, we'll go to zero tariff if you will.
The zero-for-zero offer would drop all tariffs, barriers, and subsidies between the U.S. and its allies. What kind of impact will this have on the average American? Will the goods go down, the prices?
Yeah, of course they will, because tariff is a tax, and so if we can get the tariffs down to zero, that means not only will goods and services cost less here when we go to Walmart or we go to Best Buy or wherever it might be, and that's a good thing for American consumers, but it also means think about the jobs this would create.
But not every country is willing to talk free and fair trade.
China's market distortions and the way they deal cannot be tolerated.
Moore's recommendation comes during an ongoing back and forth between the U.S. and China on trade. Trump first slapped tariffs of $250 billion of Chinese imports. Beijing responded with penalties on $60 billion of U.S. products.
You want to talk about countries that don't play by the rules. China cheats, they steal, they're building up their military, they make it almost impossible for American businesses to do business over there in China.
So China will be no doubt the biggest challenge.
No doubt, there's no doubt about that.
The Council of Economic Advisors reports the average American tariff is 3.5%. Average EU rate is 5%, while China's rate is double at 10%. Moore says by offering zero tariffs, it allows America to take the high ground and even gain a stronger negotiating position with China to end some of Beijing's most abusive trade policies. Now, Steve, all this sounds great. Zero for zero, more jobs, the economy would improve. Why isn't it so easy for countries just to get on board?
Because don't want to do it. I mean, so these countries like to lecture us and stuff, but when it comes right down to it, a lot of these countries have protectionist impulses, and they don't want to open up their markets to us.
Moore tells me Great Britain would be the best country to offer the zero-for-zero deal, but they first need to exit the European Union. In July, Trump and EU President Jean-Claude Juncker agreed the U.S. and EU would work towards zero tariffs, zero non-tariff barriers, and even zero subsidies on non-auto industrial goods. Now the challenge will be extending that to all products. Ben Kennedy, CBN News, the White House.
The nation is bracing for serious winter weather hitting much of the country over the next few days. It is already adding insult to injury in California. Areas devastated by wildfires are seeing mudslides and flooding, forcing evacuations. There is snowfall in higher elevations, as much as 6 inches in the southern Sierra. Meteorologist Joe Bastardi tells CBN News winter is hitting hard and early this year.
This is going to be a historic storm in the Carolinas, the western part of North Carolina into southwest Virginia. 1 to 2 feet of snow in Winston-Salem. I think you're going to get that there. 6 to 12 inches in Greensboro, 4 to 8 inches in Raleigh.
Bastardi says parts of North Carolina and southwest Virginia could get as much as 2 feet of snow. After a week of tribute, family and friends of former President George Herbert Walker Bush said their final goodbyes Thursday. Jennifer Wishon has more on the remarkable journey to his resting place in Texas.
For his final trip, George Herbert Walker Bush chose a mode of transportation befitting one of the last presidents of the greatest generation. A train bearing his name. Thousands of Texans lined the rails to honor 41 as he traveled to his final destination, the Bush Presidential Library in College Station.
It's just an honor to be here. He served our country for so many years.
It was a peaceful journey that began in Houston at St. Martin's Church.
Amazing grace.
A final service to say goodbye. At the same place, the Bush family gathered in April to remember their mother and grandmother, Barbara.
In heaven.
Bush's Secretary of State and dear friend James Baker was with him when he died.
We rejoice, Mr. President, that you are safely tucked in now and through the ages with God's loving arms around you. Because our glory, George, was to have had you as our president and as such a friend.
His grandson and namesake, George P. Bush, offering yet another heartwarming glimpse into the life of 41.
In a typical day, he'd wake up around 5 a.m. to review security briefings and grab his first coffee of the day. When the coast was clear, all the grandkids would try our best to snag a spot on the bed and nestle up between him and Ganny while they read the paper.
On to College Station. One final hail to the chief, and the largest missing man formation ever, with 21 fighter jets honoring the former Navy pilot. Bush now rests alongside his wife of 73 years, his silver fox that he called Bar, and his daughter Robin, who the couple lost to leukemia when she was 3. Now, as 41's remarkable life of service comes to an end, for his family,
God bless you, Gampy, until we meet again.
And Americans everywhere, this final farewell is bittersweet.
It's happy because George Herbert Walker Bush gets to be with his wife, but it's sad because, well, we don't have him anymore.
Amen. Jennifer Wishon, CBN News.
Well said, little guy. This weekend, the CBN News Channel rebroadcast former President Bush's memorial service at the National Cathedral. You can see it Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. For more information on how to find the CBN News Channel in your area, check out our website. It is cbnnews.com. Gordon, back to you.
Well, certainly is a great American, part of the great generation that won World War II, one of the youngest pilots in the Air Force, just absolutely incredible career, but a legacy that lasts to this day. We have to remember the wall came down during his presidency. It was amazing what occurred. Fought the first war in the Gulf to an astounding victory and had the wisdom to say, this isn't something we need to break anymore and we don't need to occupy it. How do we bring peace and then exit Kuwait? And just absolutely brilliant moves. One part of his legacy I hope we don't lose, and that was he was able to bring people together. In my lifetime, I think it's the last presidency where you actually could reach across the aisle and come to agreement. When Clinton took over, that really wasn't possible. There were some compromises with Newt Gingrich, but not many. And then you get into Bush 2, and then into Obama, and now into Trump. It just doesn't seem like we can ever bridge our divide. Can we have one nation under God, indivisible, again? That would be something to really watch out for and really pray for.